What is up, YouTube? How y'all doing? Here we go. Check it out. Without a doubt, the thumbnail battle. Everybody is putting a lot of emphasis on the thumbnail. This is your first, how can I say this? This should be your first first step out of a beginner. A beginner should be recording the video, uploading it, working on your title. I always try to do three things. Record your video, you're speaking into the camera, record your video, upload your video, right? And then make a channel. Make a title. The next thing you should be doing is, it should be 3 sets of 3s. But anyway, the next thing you should be doing is making sure your title agree with what you're saying, because the algorithm puts out a transcript, which means that whatever you're saying out your mouth, it's going to be in that transcript. So the first couple of words you're saying need to be matching your title. Does that make sense? And we teach all that. We break all this stuff down. Now, once you start getting that and you get that rhythm going with that part, next is your YouTube, the thumbnail. Because that thumbnail is going to get them people that's scrolling to stop right at your video. And let's see if my man from vidIQ is going to break it down right after this intro. Let's check it out.
Growth's got a formula most never learn. You don't need luck or talent, structure is earned. If you're ready to build and you know it's your turn, start with the 4 free videos, earn as you learn. Click on the more below to sign up.
That's right, guys. Sign up for the 4 free videos. It's 4 of them, man. And you go through all 4 of them. Take your time. Some of them are pretty long, like an hour long. I'm trying to break down everything to make you understand why Uncle Mike actually started a YouTube channel, and I'm so happy that I did. I'm happy that everything worked for me. So with that being said, y'all hit that subscribe button and hit that bell. Hey, let's have some fun and let's give him a thumbs up and let's check this bad boy out. Here we go.
So today I've got something quite important that I need to show you. 2.1 million views, 3.3 million views in 6 months. And this one, 2.9 million views, and it's only been up for 3 weeks. If you're stuck wondering why your small channel isn't getting any views, even though you swear you've done everything right, I've got some bad news for you. You might be making 2024 style thumbnails in a 2026 YouTube feed. Yeah. The rules have changed, and they've changed that fast. So our team has spent the last few weeks researching what viewers actually click on right now on YouTube. And we found 11 styles that are absolutely dominating. So by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to test next, what works in your niche, and how to do it. So let's start with the biggest shifts. All right. So the first thing I want you to do is bring up the YouTube homepage right now. Don't worry, I can wait a few seconds. All right, now that you've done that, tell me what you see. Most likely arrows, circles, huge big fonts, big bright colors. Everybody basically right now is yelling to try and get your attention, and it's overwhelming, isn't it? And then out of all of that chaos, an oasis appears. Plain white background, one object, nothing else. And your eye is drawn straight towards it. This is neo-minimalism, and it works because it acts as a visual rest stop that draws your eyes towards it. When over 90% of thumbnails look the same way on YouTube, when something new and different comes along, it's disruptive. So if you want to style this one out yourself, here's what you need to do. You want to keep to one subject, and you want to make at least 50% of the thumbnail completely clear. It's what we call negative space. 2 colors maximum, and stick to clear, easy readable fonts if you even use them. And either go with a pure white background or muted monochromatic colors. High contrast is really a friend in this one. This very style of thumbnail is probably what made you click on this video, because we made
Wow. I never even looked at it like that. But what made me click on the video, because it drew my attention. It did draw my attention to him. And I like that. I like the points that you're making. That's incredible.
testing it out here at vidIQ for a couple of months. And the results, well, they speak for themselves. They've been quite encouraging. I've been saying this for years at this point. When it comes to thumbnails, you want to make them half as complicated as they currently are, unless, in this case, is very much more in winning a click. However, there is an important caveat here, and this will extend to all of the thumbnail strategies we're talking about today. They are going to have a certain amount of shelf life. Right now, this neo-minimalism style thumbnail works because it's different. But in 6 months' time, when everybody is copying it, it's going to be less effective, obviously. Like videos themselves, trends go up and down as attention shifts. Now, this is why it's always a good idea to get an overview of the YouTube thumbnail landscape before you actually publish your video on a platform. To help you do that, vidIQ is a very handy thumbnail preview tool to test how your minimal design might actually look in the feed surrounded by all those other thumbnails. And that's because context matters. What looks good in isolation might not stand out in the real YouTube world. All right, so neo-minimalism is all...
Did you hear what he said? You got to hear that again. Stand out, because you can make a great thumbnail. Like all three of those thumbnails and the thumbnails he's showing, they all look good. They look good. Imagine you scrolling and all the thumbnails look good, appealing to the eye. What's going to make the viewer stop on yours? Because yours look good just like all the other ones look good. You have to do something to make your thumbnail stand out. You have to remember that. And that is the skill that we teach. See, we don't teach you how to make good thumbnails. We teach you how the skill to stand out. Not only in your thumbnail, stand out in what you're talking about. Stand out the remix system. I'm a producer. I'm going to show you how to produce your YouTube video. So if you have to get up, imagine this. This is Uncle Mike on my YouTube videos. Everybody sits down in the chair, right? And they talk just like him. Guess what I do? For no reason. This is different. This is so different. I don't even know what to say. I just get up and start saying what I gotta say because it's different. And they say, Uncle Mike, you funny. Sometimes when I stand up, my knees hurt. I'm like, oh my God, my knee. Be real. Because guess what? Everybody who watching your video, their knees probably hurt too. Here we go. Here we go. Back to thumbnails.
And that's because context matters. What looks good in isolation might not stand out in the real YouTube world. All right, so neo-minimalism is all about stripping everything down to its core. But what if you need to show scope? That is where the surround style comes into play. Yeah, how amazing does all of this look when comparing free editing software, or trying 7 new hobbies, or testing 10 new products? Your eyes naturally go to the face first and then explore everything around them. This style of thumbnail captures your attention immediately, but then demands a few extra seconds as you look around the image and you become more and more invested in it. So here is how to make all of this work for you. Put yourself, or the main object, dead center in the thumbnail. And then organize your products, your objects, your elements in an organized circle or grid around that central point of focus. And the key word there is organized. Because while there may end up being a chaotic number of objects on screen, it is controlled chaos. The mistake people often make with these styles of thumbnails is making them just a little too cluttered. If I, as a viewer, can't identify those objects at thumbnail size, then you, as a creator, have lost the effect. This style of thumbnail works particularly well for product comparisons, or I tried every X type of content, testing videos, collection showcases, basically anything where the quantity or variety is part of a value proposition of a video. So you can see it here working in literally every single type of niche. And we do have another little tool here that can help you delve deeper into thumbnail research. With the vidIQ browser extension installed, on any video watch page, just click See More Thumbnails and we'll pull out more images that match the style or have a similar look from within the same topic that have performed well. There's a link in the description if you want to start using that and the thumbnail preview tool right now. But what if you're not comparing things and instead you're ranking things? Well, that brings us on to our next thumbnail style. Okay, this next style of thumbnail is fascinating because it does something relatively new, which is rare in the YouTube thumbnail space, and it's really specific to color psychology. Now, this rainbow style of thumbnail works because your brain sees a full spectrum of color and associates it with completeness. But here is what creators have done to make this even more effective. Rather than it just being an aesthetic of the thumbnail, they've turned the colors into a ranking system. Now, people love frameworks. They love to be able to rank things in different categories. Which level should this thing be at? Do I agree with where the creator leveled this thing? It is encouraging engagement. And some may argue engagement bait if the creator is intentionally being controversial with their choices. This thumbnail style originated in the gaming niche with character rankings and tier lists, that sort of thing. But now we're starting to see it everywhere, ranking AI tools, movies, even YouTube creators themselves. It's even kind of jumped its own shark by ranking systems, if you can figure that one out. So let's think about how we can execute this thumbnail style for your channel. You'll need 3, 5, or ideally 7 different topics to talk about in your video. And then you'll want to apply a color gradient. Red through blue works best because it's intuitive. Then you'll want to add some numbers to reinforce the hierarchy of the rankings and try and keep the base images consistent throughout. And you'll want to do that because what's going to differentiate these images is the colors. Now, a fair warning for you all at this point, this style of thumbnail may attract controversy in your video. When you're ranking people and putting things in tier lists, you are intentionally saying that one thing is better than the other or something else is worse than all of the rest. And that is going to garner opinion from your community. And my guess is, for that style of content, that is exactly what you want as a creator. Now, you'll be pleased to hear that there are more new thumbnail strategies in the rest of this video, but before we jump onto them, let's go onto some tried and tested ones, shall we? All right then, first up in the thumbnail still work category, whiteboards. Hand-drawn diagrams and frameworks etched out on actual whiteboards. And yes, this is a thumbnail that's almost as old as the platform itself, but they have stood the test of time. Look at these thumbnails. Every business type, how to make your first video, made by yours truly. But beyond just how good I'm looking and how intelligent I am because I've got a whiteboard, here's the psychology behind them. When your brain sees a whiteboard in a thumbnail, it immediately categorizes it as highly educational content. You're not getting fluff, you're getting value. You're not getting a theory, you're getting a system that actually works. So if you've got a system, show the system on that whiteboard. Just make sure that whatever is on that whiteboard raises curiosity, even if it doesn't make complete sense in the thumbnail. The beauty of this thumbnail style, a little bit like the minimalism one we showed you earlier, is that it works against thumbnail fatigue. When everybody else is using Photoshop to create something fancy or generating images that have that AI veneer, it's refreshing to whip out a whiteboard and some markers and do some doodling. Whiteboard style thumbnails can have that magical quality that we call authenticity. And even to this day, we still see this thumbnail style crushing it in all sorts of niches. And if you want a few different examples of how this whiteboard or diary style entry works, check out Ali Abdaal's channel. He's got tons of them there. And this is one of those rare circumstances in a thumbnail where the stuff on the whiteboard can be so chaotic that you can't fully take it in. What you're trying to emphasize here in the thumbnail is the value and the vibe, not necessarily the complete solution. And with this tried and tested thumbnail formula, the viewer has seen so many of them at this point that they understand the assignment. All right, that is whiteboard style thumbnails out of the way. Let's talk about another classic thumbnail style that still gets a lot of traction. We've got Twitter posts, Reddit comments, Instagram question stickers, Yelp reviews. But it's also Amazon listings, hotel booking pages, app store cards, price tags, certification badges. Basically anything that looks like a familiar interface or a well-known brand. If we look at Alex Hormozy's thumbnail here, we've got the verification check mark, clean text. It looks quite familiar, right? And then there's a similar one from us, and it kind of reminds you of social media. Maybe Twitter? When it was good? Seriously though, and this is
when
a
it was
somewhat
good.
uncomfortable truth.
Wow.
Our brain may trust a recognizable interface from a questionable brand more than a small creator's thumbnail on YouTube. When it looks like a tweet, it feels like it's being shared. And when it looks like a verified profile, it feels credible. Nothing necessarily about the information has changed, but the framing has changed, and framing changes perspective. In effect, you've borrowed the credibility of the interface. You're not just simply saying something, you're implying that the internet itself has already validated it. That is very powerful, and also incredibly scary at the same time. So if you do want to try adopting this thumbnail strategy, implement these 3 key techniques. Match the UI interface you want to invoke as closely as possible. We're talking about the spacing, the fonts, the colors. And then add those recognizable elements, the logos, the check marks, the platform cues. And finally, use curiosity-driven or controversial lines in your text. And as always with thumbnails, simplify them so they're straightforward and blunt. This is going to amplify the tension of the format that you use. Now, yes, I will agree that this style has been around for years and it still works. We should also tell you something important about the landscape of YouTube thumbnails. While trends do evolve, psychology remains fairly stable. All right, we've got one more classic to take a look at. Let's talk about text, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the words, all the letters that may be.
Let's talk about it, baby.
On a more serious note, text on thumbnails has experienced somewhat of a glow-up recently. For literally decades, text was seen as purely functional. But in recent years, we've started to see stuff like this. 3 words, big, bold, direct. It's not messy, it doesn't have 12 arrows and 5 fonts on it. It was elevated, minimal, aesthetic. Text was no longer seen as functional, it was treated as design. And it still works today. But this year, text is becoming cinematic. Take a look at these examples. Have you noticed something? This text seems to live inside the scene. It's no longer at the top or the bottom of the frame, in the corners to one side, so it doesn't interfere with the main subject. What it's doing now is sharing the same territory as the main subject of a thumbnail. This is where the predominant action happens in a thumbnail, and creators are intentionally taking advantage of that with text. And that color shift matters too. That yellow feels modern, high contrast, really pops on a mobile device. But it also screams Gen Z energy. It's like a short film title card, not a YouTube thumbnail. And that is where the main difference lies. Last year's version was big headline, clear message, strong. The 2026 version is cinematic composition first, then text that feels embedded into the world itself. It actually interacts with the lighting of the image. It respects negative space. It feels very organic and very intentional. And here's why this works. In this environment, the YouTube thumbnails used to feel like ads. And now they feel like stills from a Netflix television series. In this day and age, viewers are trained by streaming platforms. When they see cinematic framing, they see quality. So when you combine that with the 3 words of tension, you get curiosity. But here is the important rule. If you're doing 3-word bold punch text, really own it. Center it, make it dominant, keep it clean. But if, on the other hand, you're going cinematic YouTube thumbnail 2.0, compose your shot first. Then find a natural place and playfully place those words where they belong. And remember, 3 words, maybe 4. All right, so we've seen text evolve from functional to minimal to cinematic. Now let's talk about something that does the complete opposite and still wins. This next style is a little unsettling, and that's the point. Warped faces. Look at this thumbnail. 3 faces of the same person. Or this one, 2 faces merged together, somewhat ghostly, double exposure. Your brain, on seeing these thumbnails, says to itself, hang on, there's something not quite right here. And that pause, that hesitation, that's the click. This style works because it's what's known as a pattern interrupt. You hit this and it stands out because it looks broken, glitchy, something is just off. And that is essentially why it works. That split second of confusion, that is a curiosity gap that your mind needs to resolve. Now then, this isn't just random distortion for the sake of visual intrigue. This warping usually reflects the tone and theme of a video itself. Identity crisis, realization, duality, heavy topics, psychological stuff. And just look at these views. Huge outliers for the respective channels. However, as with all of these thumbnail strategies, we do have a little bit of a warning. This style has a certain tone. If, for example, you're making feel-good content about productivity hacks, then warp faces probably isn't the vibe you're looking for. I'd say this style is best used for self-improvement, commentary, harsh truths. Essentially anything where the premise feels slightly uncomfortable. And you don't need much text, if any, at all in these thumbnails, because that warped face is going to be doing a lot of the talking for you. But if you are going to do this, it has to look very, very intentional. So again, we're thinking about a clean blend, strong lighting, and because this style of thumbnail is very new on the platform, it stands out. All right, I think it's time for another thumbnail gear shift, and we'll cram as much stuff as we can into the image. Welcome everybody to the...
I like that because it stands out. You need standing out. That's the first thing you should be thinking, is stand out.
Maximalist style, otherwise known as I own literally everything in this category. Here's my flex thumbnail. So if you look at these, we've got SNES cartridges, Game Boys, controllers, all playfully placed around a center product. Every single item perfectly arranged. And that's the key. It does look chaotic, but it is, in actuality, extremely controlled. And that means it's visually satisfying to look at. This is a difference between the surrounded style thumbnails that we talked about at the very beginning of this video. With the surrounded style, the middle point of a thumbnail is a star with everything orbiting around it. But with maximalist thumbnails, the collection is the star. If you yourself are dead center in a thumbnail, you're actually secondary, if you're even in the thumbnail at all. This works because it appeals to a very specific part of your brain. That's the part of the brain that likes collecting things, organizing things, completing things. We've already talked about credibility. Well, this is visual credibility before you've even clicked. Now, I'd say this content is best for collector, community, hobbyist content, tech and gaming, product comparisons, makeup, tools, fashion. Basically, anybody who wants to signal in their thumbnail, I have the complete set and I'm going to show you in this video. And now, I think we should transition from this organized chaos to a thumbnail adjacent style. As you can see, there's still a lot in the thumbnail, but this is more like a grid or an encyclopedia aesthetic. Every major religion explained, every political ideology explained, every human extinction cause explained, every generation explained, all of mathematics explained. It's the same structure every single time. And yeah, this particular video is asking the right question. Why is this everywhere all of a sudden? Well, other than the fact that these types of videos are landing hundreds of thousands of views for their creators every single time, it's another one of those brain things. And our brains love classifications. When you see all of these circles and squares lined out in a grid, you start to think to yourself, ah, this creator's done all of the hard work for me and organized this complex topic into something that they can explain in a single video. A good way of describing this is turning a Wikipedia page into a thumbnail for a video. I want you, the video, to explain everything to me in 10 minutes. Now let's identify all of the design choices in these thumbnails so you get it right when you're making your own. They've got a flat illustration style with a consistent icon shape. Each circle is a high contrast, and you want to label each of these icons with 1 or 2 words and make sure they're readable, even at a small size in a thumbnail. The background color itself is usually neutral, white, black, a solid color. The important thing is that you don't want that competing with the grid, which is the focal point. There's no shadows or dramatic lighting, no cinematic mood. This isn't supposed to be emotional, it's supposed to be informative. But it does have an aesthetic that is approachable and non-threatening. Even heavy topics in this category feel safe when the thumbnail is reduced to colorful, simple icons. And that is not accidental. All right, folks, little disclaimer, word of warning as we approach thumbnail strategy number 10. Some of these images are going to trigger you in a clickbaity way. I've been seeing these everywhere, as I have done for many years, but they're just getting more and more, I like to call, candid fake. He snuck onto someone's private island, whereas he built a hoversuit that apparently flies inches off the ground, and he's filming a movie in a swimming pool on a cruise. And as for her, she's camping on the Great Wall of China. So here's the thing about these thumbnails. Some of this stuff probably kind of happened, but most of the stuff in those thumbnails definitely didn't happen. But it feels like it did. But it didn't. But it did. And that is the what you would call evolution of this style of thumbnail. We used to have quote unquote hyper real thumbnails. Over sharpened, over saturated, Mr. Beast mega smiles. But now that era is coming towards an end, perhaps because Mr. Beast made it so popular in the first place. It's been done to death at this point. Now it's more one engineered image that looks candid. It could be real. This looks a little bit more like you just happened to capture it in the moment. Even if it did require heavy photoshopping, even if it did require AI, even if the moment never existed in real life. This, definitely for the target audience, is believable fiction. And it's very powerful because it tells the entire story in a single frame. So just look at what the thumbnail has managed to show you. Multiple story arcs in a single frame. You wouldn't really be able to capture this angle in real life, but they make it appear as if they have. It's not too AI that it puts you off, and it's not too polished that it makes it look fake. It is right in that sweet spot where the brain says to itself, this looks fun, I want to see what's going on. For, and I must stress this, the intended target audience. And here is the biggest shift in this thumbnail style. It's the death of the classic accessories. No text, no arrows, no red circles. Instead, you're taking a photo and decorating it with graphics. You're creating a photo that should exist for your concepts. In other words, the perfect frame. I'd say this, it is the new standard for challenge creators, travel creators, lifestyle creators. What it's doing is replacing the over-the-top hyper realism for something that feels just a little bit more authentic, even though it is still just effectively a fake thumbnail. So if you are going to go down this route, you probably do need some AI assistance and be quite handy at a program like Photoshop. But the key here is restraint. You know how far you can go, but you don't go all the way to the edge. Make it look like you could have taken this photo if physics and geometry were just a little bit more cooperative. All right, from candid fakes to something a lot more simpler. So everything else in your feed is screaming colors, detail, energy. And then you hit a thumbnail like this. Quiet, dark, serious, direct eye contact. It is what you might call the anti-thumbnail. And in a weird way, it becomes the brightest image on the page because of how different it looks. And this type of thumbnail is also really powerful because of the way it's packaged. It makes things incredibly simple for the viewer because it removes risk. This video isn't asking for 10 minutes of your time, it's asking for a single minute. So while it feels harmless, it's actually a massive commitment hook. And Dan Martell has been running this one really hard. 59 seconds, 58 seconds, 54 seconds. But each of them has millions of views with the same structure, the same dark background, the same serious face. As a result, other creators are taking this style and playing with it. Some creators are softening the image and using less aggressive fonts, or plain and simple, they're just having more fun with the subject. They're being more inviting with their pitch, and yet these videos are still getting the same massive outlier scores. So how do you execute on this style of thumbnail? Well, let's start with muted backgrounds and minimal colors. You want to keep the subject centered and simple text with a very specific time constraint. And let's not go for something exact. Let's make it a little irritating. Why 59 seconds? Now I need to watch. We've looked at a lot of different thumbnails today, but the real takeaway is this. They don't work because they're pretty. They often work because they are patterns that can feel new and fresh in your niche. And that is perhaps the bigger game we are playing in 2026. Creators aren't winning a race by reinventing the thumbnail wheel. They're borrowing proven visual systems from other niches. And then they're adapting them to fit their needs. That is the niche bending we talked about earlier. So if you do want to know how to systematically borrow and adapt a format that works in a particular market and apply it to your niche without looking like a copycat, this is the next video for you. I'll see you there.
That was good right there. That's good. I need to let Tahir, you need to see this one. Yeah, Tahir need to check that one out because the thumbnail game is changing. And when you look at it from a point of view of what they're doing, if you're doing thumbnails right now, but your title is not agreeing with what you're saying. If your title, like for example, these three titles that's up here on the board right now, why YouTube doesn't push your content. That make me want to click. And how to fix it. Oh, I'm about to get a solution to. I'm clicking on that. In fact, that should be the next video we do. Did YouTube start recommending your videos? Just a question. I don't seen that over and over again. But notice his thumbnail, the middle thumbnail. This fixed my low views. Okay. I like that better. I like the wording that's in his thumbnail better than what his title is. And I'm not saying I know, I'm just saying for me, did YouTube stop recommending my videos? I think that's beginners. I'm talking from a beginner now. I don't think beginners understand the algorithm and how YouTube is pushing. I mean, they heard it in the street, so I guess yes. Anyway, the last and final one, before and after. I like that before is like, the after, I think after should be in green, like a go. Go means green signal. I think the colors really mean something. Red is almost like before should have been red. And after should be green or yellow, something up. That's an up color to me. How to trick YouTube into reviving your dead videos. That's interesting. I think he got the pictures backwards too. What? Yeah, that's New Ocean. It says New Ocean, Old Ocean. New Ocean. Oh, maybe the I don't know. Maybe he got to explain that one. I got to click on it just to explain it because I think the picture should be backwards. But anyway, y'all tell me what y'all think, man. I'm going to get on up out of here. Hey, y'all take it light, take it slow. Tell him Uncle Mike told you so. Peace out.